right, we got some parts rolling in today. We got our new gasket from John Deere. The part number. There it is. Got our intake back. Nice bung welded in there. Welder put it in upside down, it looks like. But I think it'll work just fine. We'll finish getting that sucker cleaned up. Get the intake back together. Got our new fuel injectors in. We'll see if it's too much fuel or not. Hopefully we can get her trimmed down to where it's not, but soon enough we'll have this thing together. Waiting on Dynojet to give us a call back. We're getting pretty close. We got our intake back on, sensor hooked up. Haven't got it to communicate with the computer yet, but we're working on that with Dynojet. Got a blow-off valve there to relieve some pressure when you slam the throttle closed. Got our fan wired up to a relay, and we got a intake pipe made. It's thrown together for now. Kind of run out of time. We're going camping this weekend, so I'm trying to get it done before then. So came up with this just for the moment, and yeah, went to fire it up for the first time. Finally got it started, and every hose clamp on this thing just was leaking like crazy. But we got all them tightened up, got the seats out to get our wiring done, and on to the tuning process. It's coming along. We're getting our AFR back down to where we need it. I think our injector duty cycle is only at like 3%, but I got to rework this intake. It's so loud. I'll start it up for you right now. Cycle is giant injector only 3%. So we might be able to squeeze a little more out of it to get our AFRs where we want them, but for now we're getting it. So as soon as they give us a call back, we'll get that sensor set up so we can start adding fuel, pump fuel when it's produced. By Dynojet calling, but hey, when they call, you answer. Kind of hard to get a hold of. But this is the remedy for the loud intake situation we got. Made a little flange with a piece of pipe on it, bolted it on that black back plate, so it's pulling air through the body like it used to, and it's really helped out a lot. We got it on the ground, seats back in her and everything, and we're ready to start testing and tuning and seeing what we can get done. So wish us luck. We got her running. Took her out camping. Was hoping to do some tuning while I was there, but we didn't really get to ride too much. It's kind of a family weekend. did a little bit of riding. Got a new sticker that'll probably come off in a week. But over the weekend, we've established that our blow-off valve situation is way too loud. Intake is still really loud. So we're gonna rework that. We're gonna take a weld-on bung and weld it on this pipe here for the blow-off valve. We're getting a lot higher pressure on our hot side than we are on our cold side. You can see I put a fitting there and hooked it up to the boost gauge, and it was running 10 pounds at idle, and you'd blip the throttle and it was showing 20 pounds, which I said, I can't drive it this way, we'll blow this thing up. But we checked it off the vacuum line off the intake with the gauge, and yeah, it's running 10 pounds at idle as soon as you get out of vacuum, and it'll stay right at 10 pounds all the way through the RPM range. So we're not getting too much boost. It's probably a couple pounds high, but I think we'll run it like that. So we'll move this blow-off valve over here, and it'll have a lower pressure. Right now at idle, it leaks past the blow-off valve. And any deceleration or anything like that, it's hissing out of the blow-off valve. So we're gonna put it over here and see if that shuts it up. And if not, we've got an adapter on the way to unscrew this thing that makes it real loud and adapt it down to a 1.5 inch pipe. And if it's still too loud, we'll duct it into the intake. The intake's gonna get reworked. Not a real big fan of this filter. I don't know how good of a job it does. I mean, it was $32 for the whole setup, so it can't be that great. And it's kind of ugly where it's at. So we're gonna redo that, bring it up on top of the motor and back into the other side of the body with a different filter situation. I'm gonna try to use an airbox off of TJ. Should flow plenty. You know, it's 4.0, cheap filter, and hopefully get that intake even quieter, because you can still hear it screaming no matter what. A lot of people came and stopped by and asked us about it. They'd never seen one of these before, and said, yeah, when you cruise by, it sounded like it was broke. But yeah, it's a mixture of that whining noise, which most people aren't used to, and a lot of air. So make it a little more user-friendly. We're gonna try to get it to quiet up, and hopefully be a whole lot better situation. You know, on our pipe temperatures, we've got ambient temperature on our intake, about 180 on our hot side, and then we're back down to ambient on the cold side. So we're gonna recirculate that if we have to back into the air box, and won't be heating up the system. I was surprised by that. This little intercooler that we got really gets intake temperatures back down. No need for water methanol injection or anything just yet. But yeah, that's where we're at on it. Waiting on parts and whatnot. And hopefully we'll get it all together, get her tuned up perfect. She's a little rich sometimes right now, but that's just a matter of driving it and adjusting it and accepting the new trims that the Auto-Tune has come up with, and hopefully it'll get it leveled out. It's going to be kind of hard on it due to being 10 pounds of vacuum at idle, and then as soon as you crack the throttle, you got 10 pounds of boost, so that's a big jump. And without it knowing what gear you're in, it may just be rich sometimes, which is fine. I'd rather be rich than lean, but that's where we're at on the deal. So people ask me about the map sensor hookup, and it's a GM map sensor that we got from Dynojet with their wiring harness. One wire goes to ground, one wire goes to analog, and then another goes to a 5-volt reference, which we spliced into the throttle position sensor to get that. And then the fourth wire doesn't get hooked up, not right now. It's actually for a air temperature gauge. If I can find a gauge that will work with that sensor, then I will get one of those hooked up so we know where we're at all times. I imagine over time this intercooler will get clogged up with dirt and mud and sand, and so that'll kind of be a gauge to tell me when, hey, it's time to take it apart and get her cleaned back up. And eventually, once we get a final setup on our system here, we'll get the trunk cover back on and modified. I'm glad I haven't done that so far since everything's changing so much as we go. But in the end, I hope it'll be a real clean setup, driver friendly. It's way more fun to drive. It's there's no words that you can put into it. It's a totally different machine. It'll do stuff in two-wheel drive that it wouldn't ever think about doing in four-wheel drive. We found out over the weekend. And as you can see from the little clip in the shop, it'll spin them pretty easy, and they're large tires for this machine. They had trouble getting the cooling system bled. Threw some pictures up there to show you the trials and tribulations we had trying to get it bled. But the way I did it, I bought the pump from Harbor Freight to try to get that done, and it seemed to put a good vacuum on it at first, but the second go around it wouldn't do anything. So imagine it's just Harbor Freight stuff, and doesn't work. But what we did was, while I had it on an incline and warm, I took the hose clamp off that's right back here. It's real fun to get to. But loosened that hose clamp up and just started wiggling the hose to let that steam out, and until we got fluid. Tightened her back up, and she stayed cool ever since. So that might be a easy trick if you don't have a good radiator pump to put a vacuum on it and everything. There's so many hose clamps on this thing that putting that vacuum on it, you can draw air in it pretty easy. But yeah, if y'all have any ideas on how to upgrade the brake system, let me know, because that's gonna be on my next list to do. They're always spongy. You gotta double pump the pedal. And right now with the added boost, you don't have any brakes unless you have the throttle closed. So gotta figure that out. It's a little sketchy. But anyways, we'll get back with you as soon as we get some parts in and get her rigged back up with hopefully the final setup. Thanks for watching, y'all.